Happy Mother's Day to those who celebrate, whether it's fur babies or human babies. In the name of God, who is love, beloved, and love overflowing. Amen. I always look forward to preaching on Psalm 23. I don't always do it, but I just was really into it this time. And the creators of the lectionary really paired it well with the gospel reading, I thought, where Jesus talks to his disciples, hearing his voice as the sheep listen to their shepherd. I'm sure there are some folks among us who have heard this psalm over and over again, and they're kind of, quite frankly, a little sick of it. Sometimes, once in a while, I plan a burial or something, and people are like, not Psalm 23, because they've heard it so much. But I personally really love it. Even though I've participated in many services over the last 22 plus years of ministry, the 23rd Psalm just speaks to me. As my mom was not really into church, I was introduced to God at my school, St. Luke's Episcopal in Greenwich Village, and they were the ones who taught me that God was a loving and patient and gentle God. So for me, the 23rd Psalm just reaffirms how I've always thought about God. And thankfully, I was never introduced to that sort of abusive, fundamentalist, punishing God that we unfortunately hear about way too often. This week, I read a really good article in the New York Times by David Brooks. And in this particular article, he spoke about paganism in a way I hadn't thought about before. When I think about paganism, I think of nature-based religions where people are into all kinds of beliefs in gods and goddesses and fairies and reverence for nature. David Brooks, on the other hand, pointed out there's another side of paganism. Perhaps we could call it the shadow side of paganism, using Jungian words, that we don't really hear about. He said the pagan values of ancient Rome were all about power, manliness, conquest, ego, fame, competitiveness, and prowess. And of course, he likened those values to our current government's leadership values, where empathy is actually called a sin. That, by the way, reminds me of the Woody Allen movie, Hannah and Her Sisters, where Max von Sydow said, if Jesus Christ came back today, he would never stop throwing up. Be that as it may, I think capitalism, when taken to the nth degree, does encourage a rather pagan culture, as Brooks described it. A place where empathy is considered a sin, and where caring for the stranger in our midst and helping the poor and the homeless and the orphan are considered derogatory actions rather than our actual calling as followers of our Good Shepherd Jesus. This leads Brooks to believe something that we've all undoubtedly given some thought to over the last few years, which is that we have entered into a time in our history, or maybe I should say re-entered in world history, where authoritarianism is on the rise. And it's coming through loud and clear through a term we call Christian nationalism. Christian nationalism is expressed in pseudo-religious terms, where loyalty doesn't belong to a religious figure, but a political figure. And that political figure emphasizes unquestioning loyalty and devotion. That leader may push through laws which support one interpretation of a particular religion above all other religions, in our case, Christianity. And anyone who does not walk in lockstep with those interpretations are persecuted and even in some cases arrested or deported. Now, where have we heard that before? Oh yes, Nazi Germany. The good news that Brooks ends up with in this article is that the eventual theological era that blossomed at the end of World War II was led by Reinhold Niebuhr, Abraham Joshua Heschel, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and Thich Nhat Hanh, Thomas Merton as well. So Brooks feels that the way to outlive these scary times is to emphasize the traditions of a loving and gentle God whose values are anchored in things like chesed, loving kindness, simcha, which is joy, anava, which is humility, tzedek, which is justice and charity. And of course, these are not solely Jewish values. They are also Christian values. And frankly, every religion, every mainline religion, will emphasize these things if they're not fundamentalists. In fact, he says that the use of the cross, some of us may have felt a little funny about wearing a cross in our culture, because for so long the cross and Christianity have been so misrepresented that nobody wants to be affiliated by it. But David Brooks says it is a symbol of sacrificial love overcoming the powerful. Now, if you think about the Beatitudes, about how human beings are called to live by Jesus, the Good Shepherd, that's a great way to rebel against the power that seems to be running rampant in our culture at this time. This means we not only need a good, great, and gentle shepherd God, but it also means the mainline church is actually the perfect place to spread that good news. I mean, we always kind of knew that, but now we have a new reason to spread that good news. For decades, as most of you probably know, preachers in the mainline churches have talked about the decline in church attendance. And everybody's been wringing their hands about it, trying to come up with one program or another to try to keep that from happening. But interestingly, in David Brooks' research, he said there has been a 12% increase in church attendance since 2021. And needless to say, I think St. Catherine's is in a perfect position to welcome anyone and everyone who feels the need for a gentle and loving and accepting God. So if we really look at the 23rd Psalm, what do we learn? We learn that it's not great power or any material thing that brings contentment or fulfillment, but the awareness that there is a loving God who forgives endlessly, who loves endlessly, who reminds us of what we might refer to as the simple pleasures of life. Not golden chairs, not golden shoes, but simple pleasures, the opportunity to rest, of guidance in the darkest times, and a life of gratitude even in the midst of trials and tribulations. If you think about it, this is exactly what verse 5 in the Psalm is all about. Spreading a table before me in the presence of those who trouble me is not about going, na, 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 na. It's not about laughing or bragging before your enemies or people you've had trouble with that see, living well is the best revenge. That's not what it's about. It's about actually coming to a place of gratitude for the lessons we've learned from those difficult people or experiences, because they made us stronger and, dare I say, more mature. And the final line, that goodness and mercy shall not only follow me, but in Judaism, it actually means that goodness and mercy will pursue me. Like I should become paranoid. Oh, it's goodness and mercy again, run. I know that the voices we hear the loudest today are the voices which are twisting the words of our loving shepherd to meet their needs for power. Our community of faith and others like us are the places we come to be reminded that the voice of the true shepherd, whether that is in our religion or other religions, are recognized by the love and compassion that we emphasize here at St. Catherine's and in other places as well. This is now an even more urgent calling. This is our calling as followers of the way of Jesus the Christ. And when I say that, I mean followers of the way that Jesus lived Torah. You know, the ancient Christians were known as followers of the way. What did they mean? Followers of the way that Jesus lived Torah. We don't follow all the laws of Judaism because we follow the way that Jesus has taught us how to live the spirit of Judaism. And what is that? The spirit of Jewish law is found in both our scriptures and the scriptures of all the Abrahamic faiths at their core, which is why the mystics love it. The mystics go beyond all that fundamentalist stuff and go to the heart of the religion. In Judaism, it's given a voice through the Hebrew scriptures of all things, the book of Leviticus, where you will find love your neighbor as yourself. And also, when strangers reside with you in your land, you shall not wrong them. The strangers who reside with you, they shall be to you as your own citizens. You shall love the stranger as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Hello, we don't deport our strangers. We are supposed to love them and care for them. Also in the prophet Micah, it's clearly said, what does the Lord require but to do justice, love kindness, and walk humbly with God? Every religion has its hard-edge fundamentalists who focus on law, rules and regulations, and condemnations of others. But every religion also has its message of love, and love being the greatest test or sign of our shepherd, whomever our shepherd is. I'm proud to say that in this community of faith, we stress the message we are called to proclaim from the Good Shepherd, whose voice we hear in the Beatitudes through the fruit of the Spirit. And this is why I don't think we should have the 10 Commandments on courthouses, but the Beatitudes would be very nice. Thank you very much. And the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Those are all things I think we all need to cultivate. It takes practice. It doesn't just fall on us because we have that primitive amygdala in our brain that says it's fight or flight, it's fight or flight. But we are being retrained by God to produce these beautiful fruit of God's Spirit with one another. Not just people of our own country, not just people of a particular religion, but with all people. So I'll end, with the words of our Jewish and Palestinian brothers and sisters, and the words from our Good Shepherd. In all the love-centered religions of the world, go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return no one evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor everybody. Love and serve God, rejoicing in the power of Spirit. This is how we are called to treat one another and to treat the stranger in our midst. We never should forget that. That is our real calling. And the good news is that none of us are alone in this world. And what we may feel is a little beyond our pay grade or our inner strength, we will be given hope to continue, strength to continue practicing. We are all loved and precious and will be given the strength to meet the challenges to love and do justice one day at a time. We can't save the world, but we can, one person at a time, talk about and show in our actions that every human being is a child of God, worthy of love and care and compassion. Amen.